Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Breann.
And you're listening to the
Just Haunted House Things podcast.
Yeah. So, Breann,
Courtney.
I know everything about you.
I know everything about you too.
Our listeners don't know anything about you.
That's exciting. It's like an air of mystery.
I know. But can you tell us a little bit about like who you are?
Oh.
And like what your background is?
No one can see what I just did, but I flipped my hair like a sassy
She did
bitch.
a really sassy hair flip.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I am Breann. I met Courtney about
Oh my God,
like 12 years ago. It was 2009.
Oh, it was 2009.
2009.
So whatever the math is on that.
Yeah, something like that. We're in 2021. God knows what year it is. And that was my first time working for a haunted house.
Right.
Not true. I did volunteer when I was like a preteen, but it was more of a Halloween event.
Right.
Where there was a haunted house, but I was way too scared to go in haunted houses at that point.
So you weren't really like a haunt actor at that time.
But it was the reason why I got the job at the haunted house was because I just got out of film school to become an actor.
Right.
I was 18, turning 19.
Oh my God, so young.
Such a baby.
I can't believe you were that young. I do
yeah.
not remember. I definitely thought you were older.
No, I got the job like when I was 18.
Right.
And then like 2 days later, turned 19.
Wow.
And then for training, I was 19.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then, but I had been in Vancouver for a year prior. So I actually moved out here from Alberta when I was 17.
Right.
Started school, did a 12-month crazy
super intense
program for acting. Graduated 18, turned 19, worked at a haunted. That was my first job.
That was my first job in Vancouver?
Job in Vancouver.
Oh
my
God.
first quote unquote adult job because I wasn't in school anymore. And they were like, hey, we're looking for actors to scare a bunch of people. And I was actually really excited and hesitant at the same time.
Right.
Because all my life, haunted houses scared the crap out of me.
Same story.
And so I was like, okay, there's a position for not actually working in the haunted house, but I can still scare people. It's being a roamer, which is just roaming outside haunted houses, scaring the crowd and people walking by. I was
basically line entertainment.
Exactly. And I was like, you know what? That sounds so fun. I'm going to use these skills that I just like graduated school with. How many people can say that with their first job after a college or a post-secondary, they're using it right away.
Right.
And I was like,
very rare.
Exactly. Right. And I was like, oh my God. And it was just the most fun I had at any type of job. And I can still say that to this day.
Yeah.
And I felt like really excited because I remember probably like the last week of Halloween and the whole experience of Fright Nights. It was I got asked to join next season, like the regular season. So be the haunted house during the summertime for the haunted house that's there all year round. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta scare people for like
I get to do
a
this
job
again.
Yeah. And so that was my first real introduction. And I absolutely fell in love with the community, the experience, the people, like just everything about it.
The whole shebang.
Everything about it was like even the bad days, which there were some bad days. But even the bad days, like you kind of wore those as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially as a performer. With that, for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Courtney? I know about you, but you tell me, you tell our listeners about you.
So I moved out to Vancouver like end of 2006, early 2007, and I started a program, not at like an acting school, but it was an art school, so to speak. But it was like a recording program.
So like audio arts, which is still an art. So I was like perusing with like game developers and like movie people who were like learning how to be directors and writers and like film editors and all that kind of stuff. But then me and a couple of friends from school, we went to the fair, the local fair, and there was this booth that was like haunted actors needed. Ooh.
And it was like, do you want to scare for Halloween? Right? And they had it all dolled up, right?
Yeah.
And like I was the type of person who did not go into haunted houses, like hated haunted houses, liked horror movies.
Yeah.
I could tolerate them at the time.
Yep.
Would usually sleep with the light on afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
But then my one friend signed up, and then I was like, you know what? could be fun.
Why not?
Maybe they have non-scary like things. Maybe I don't have to be in
like a roamer position.
Yeah, or like, you know, like a front of house thing. Like I was like, I want to be part of the Halloween fun, but I don't want to be part of the Halloween fun.
Yeah, and
like,
there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, so there was like a couple of options. So I sign up, put my name in the hat, essentially.
Yeah.
Myself and one other friend got a call.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the funniest part about the application is that it was like, list your name, list your like work experience or whatever, but it didn't ask for a lot of work experience, but it specifically, I remember it asked what your favorite horror movie was.
Oh, what'd you put?
I put House of a Thousand Corpses because at the time it was one of my favorite horror movies.
At the time, it still is one of mine. I think that was part of my application too, and
possibly,
I think I put, and this is still true, like the Scream series is probably what I put.
Right. Yeah. And I remember like asking people like, oh, what's your favorite scary movie? Anyways, getting off topic. So I put in my application, and then me and my friend, we both got called in for an audition.
Yeah.
Both on separate days, which is fine. But they were actually taking people into the house for the application, for the interview. So they kind of like, you go in, and I was very observant, and I'm still quite observant as a person in general. And I, sorry, my cat is like scratching at my closet. So as an observant person, I was watching other people as they were entering in and then coming out of the haunt. And I noticed that they had taken in like 3 boys into the house, but I never saw them leave.
Oh, okay? God.
So I was like, okay, well, there's an opportunity, like maybe they left through a different exit. Like maybe like by chance, like out the back exit. Because obviously there's back exits or like there's secondary exits.
Like a chicken door.
Something.
As it's called in the haunt world.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well maybe I just didn't see them. Maybe I wasn't paying that close attention.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then they called my name.
Oh, God.
And I was like, okay, nerves setting in. Okay, let's do this. So I walk in, and they're in this like large room. And like, I don't know, maybe they gutted that specific room because there was no set dressing. There was nothing. It was just like a bright light and like a table.
Yeah.
And there was like 4 or 5 people sitting behind the table.
Ominous.
And it was super ominous, like very intimidating. And I was alone, like in front of them.
Yeah.
And I did notice that there was like kind of like a cutout right behind where I was standing. So I was like, okay, something creepy is happening. And I was like, okay, prepare yourself. Something might be coming. And so they're like asking me all these questions. They're like, what would you do if you were a cucumber in a salad about to be eaten? Which is like a weird question. They were just looking for like off like reactions. Yeah. So I just screeched bloody murder and like yelled like, don't eat me. Yeah. Because like if you were a cucumber in a salad, what would you do?
That, I mean, fair.
Right?
Yeah.
So after I did that, they were like, oh, what do you do outside of like your work life, or what else do you do in your life? And I was like, oh, I work at like, I go to school and I'm for recording arts, and I'm like an aspiring singer at the time. And so they're like, oh, can you sing us something? And so I can't remember what song I sang, but I sang for them.
Yeah.
Which again, terrifying at the
time,
because like I hadn't spent a lot of time on stage in front of people as like a performer at that time. But then it's
so exposing.
It was so exposing at the time because it was like me and these like judges, so to speak. And then
you're trying to like nail a job interview at the same time.
It's really weird.
American Idol and like a job interview.
Yeah, it was the weirdest job interview I think I've ever had, but I kind of love it.
Yeah.
So as I'm doing all that, they're asking me a few more questions after I finish singing, and then suddenly the drop window goes off behind me.
Oh, God.
And all I did was look at them and then turn back to the like judges. Like, that's it. Like, I didn't, like, I kind of jumped, but I didn't scream or anything like that. I think they were trying to like gauge my reactions to like other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like in a haunt, you want to make sure that your actors aren't going to be like super distracted by so-and-so screaming down the hallway.
Yeah.
Right? So it was intimidating, and I was like kind of jarred by it, but it was fine. So I got the job.
Obviously.
Yeah. Got the job, and the training was basically like a dry run of like the day. So they put you in your haunt, and back then those haunts were trailers.
Okay, yeah.
So
Classic. How safe they were, I have no idea.
Oh, we don't want to talk about that.
I don't want to think about it.
We don't talk about the safety of haunted houses nowadays. You just have to use your imagination there too.
So I remember we got like a bin, like a Rubbermaid bin of like costumes. So they weren't even hung up. And you got grease makeup, like just like the tubes that you would get at like the dollar store.
For like Halloween.
Yeah,
exactly. To be like a vampire.
Yeah. So they had like a couple of tubes of that of like various colors. Yeah. Right?
God.
And then a shared lipstick of sorts.
Oh, healthy. Yeah.
Super healthy. And so they were like, oh, pick a spot, whatever. Like there was no assigned spots. You could just like pick a spot.
Yeah.
So I chose like this spot that was like behind like a body. So it was like kind of like an autopsy table. And so I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to throw on these scrubs.
Yeah.
Like very messed up scrubs.
Yeah.
And throw on a little bit of makeup, put a mask on my face. Like just like literally a mask.
Yeah.
Like 2020 mask.
Oh.
Not like a surgical mask.
Like a surgical mask.
A surgical mask.
Here I'm thinking like not like a latex mask, but like a cheap little like Halloween
mask.
Yeah, mask.
No, it was a surgical mask, okay? Oh. And they had a prop, like a circular saw without the blade. Okay. And so that was like what you could use to scare.
It's kind of scary.
And like, they gave you pointers. Like they had people walk through the houses and like supervisors and people like that.
Yeah.
And they would like come by and give you pointers. So that was like kind of the first experience. But that whole Halloween, like that whole run, I was bitten by the haunt acting bug, like immediately, like just the energy of the space and just like all of that. It was just so intoxicating that like I needed to do more. Yeah. And so when the season ended, they didn't ask me back right away. And so I was like, damn it. How do I get to do this all the time?
Yeah.
And so I pestered my friend who also got the job. Yeah. And he got asked back. Okay. For the regular season, for the summer season, and for and for the Halloween event that they did. So, I kept bugging him, and I kept messaging him and being like, "Hey, do they need people? Hey, do they need people?" Yeah. And then he gave me a number of someone else in the haunt, and so I was like, "Hey, if you ever need anybody, if you ever need someone to fill in, it doesn't even have to be scaring. Like, I will be happy to do whatever like grunt work." Yeah. I will be there. Like, if you need someone, like I swear I'm solid, right? That person called me one day and they're like, we have a position. Can you come in tomorrow? Yeah. I was like, yes.
Hell yes.
Yes, I can. This is my schedule going forward. So I go in and I end up being a cash girl. For the haunt, which is not a bad thing because I was the one who was like taking the cash and getting them excited about the haunt. And then I would like basically do the signal that people were coming through, which back then was like literally just piece of plywood screwed into the wall with like a hinge, and then we would just slam it on the wall.
Oh, kind of like a door knocker, but like really janky.
Yeah, like a really really weird door knocker. Yeah. So that's what I did for forever, and then on my breaks, I didn't go eat. I went and scared.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Damn, like that's how
really
bad.
Got you.
Yeah, it got me so bad. I was like, I need to do this, and I wouldn't even put on makeup because it was my break. Yeah, I wouldn't put on a mask. I would literally just wear like a black zip up hoodie, throw my hood over my face, like throw my hair down, and I would just like sit in this really dark room, and I would scare the crap out of people on my break. So eventually, they put me on. Yeah. I ended up getting. I had to audition for it. Mm-hmm. But I ended up getting a roamer position that year.
Oh, nice.
Because I was like, I wanted it so bad. And then they kept having people like bail on certain positions. Mm-hmm. So I ended up in a position that I originally auditioned for, didn't get. Ooh. But because everybody kept bailing, I got it. They eventually just boosted me up to this one position.
They were like, they were just like, we should have just done this in the beginning.
That's what it felt like. Yeah. Right. And because I was supposed to be like, quote unquote mental patient to begin with. Okay. And so I had like a partner that I was wandering around with. Yeah. And like there was a stage show involved, which was also part of like our duties as roamers. Yeah. So it was like kind of like there was like a hierarchy to this because like this one character that I ended up playing, she was like
kind of like the main character of all of it. So it was like kind of a big deal.
Yeah. You know what? I think I remember you telling me this story before.
So it was like kind of a weird thing that happened. And it was literally just because people didn't show up.
That's crazy.
Not that I was good.
No.
Which is fine. But I think I did okay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, your friend, I remember on like the beach that we went to one day said that I scared her out of the park. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So I did do good.
Yeah. Like, and that was probably because the program that your chair just broke on you. I remember like the how you guys had it set up for the like Fright experience was like you said, a stage show, and like there was a lot of traveling, whereas when I came in it was very structured because there was multiple themed haunted houses, and so you would get you wouldn't know what character you were playing each night, but you knew what haunted house you were a part of, and whether you were going to be outside roaming or inside the actual house in a scare zone. So like when you were talking earlier about how like, oh, sometimes I would just go on my break and just go and scare, and I'm like, there is no way that would fly nowadays with regulations and rules and training. Yeah. That's crazy though.
No, I know. It was like
so fun.
Full outlaw scaring. Like in that sense. Like
the Wild West of scaring.
That
is amazing. I love that. Oh, okay. So the first time that I actually physically went in the house, I have to back up a little bit because I went to the haunted house, regular season haunted house.
Right.
Like when I was still in film school, and it was me and 3 of my friends, and we all wanted to go in. And I had just gotten off the wooden roller coaster, and I was like, "Let's do this."
Adrenaline's high.
I totally want to go in the haunted house. And mind you, like any haunted house I had been in prior in my life, I like cried or like was hiding in my dad's like shoulder when I was like 8.
As
like,
you do.
I would watch horror movies and just be terrified, like praying that like the murderer wouldn't come and show up and kill me in the middle of my sleep. Like my imagination, like this is why I was going to become an actor, is because my imagination was so vivid that like it created incredible scenarios that were never going to happen. Like I would tell my younger self, be like, okay, if the murderer comes tonight, I'll just join him. Like if that means I live, I will be like,
I will become a murderer.
Let's go kill some people. I will be your little apprentice. Teach me how to stab someone. What's the best way to get the blood out? So like my mind was already warped because of all the movies I would watch, but it's like more of a survival instinct at that point.
Of course.
So when I went to this haunted house, my friends wanted to go in. I got up to the door and instantly tears. I was like, I can't do it. I'm not going to, it's not happening. No. And I'm just like crying. And my friends were like, it's okay. I was like, I'm just going out here. And I'm just like waiting for the 5 minutes for my friends to go through the haunted house. And mind you, this is the haunted house that I would work at later on. And I remember specifically my friends come running out of the end of the exit, and they're laughing and screaming and having the best time ever. And one of the characters follows them out of the house and screaming at them to get out of his house. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that seemed really scary. I'm glad I didn't go in.
Right.
Now, the first time I actually went in the haunted house,
I remember this.
So how Courtney and I met was through this haunted attraction.
The haunt.
The first time we actually met was at training.
Yes.
And you trained me. I gave you your sweet nickname because we were talking about radios, and I was like, do we get to use like sweet calls on the radio? Like, can I be like Breann to Maverick? And Courtney was like, are you calling me Maverick right now? I was like, yes, I am. And she was like, that is awesome, but no. And the next time I saw you was my first day of work, and I was coming to get my costume, but it turns out I was in the wrong direction. I was like, hey, Maverick. And you looked at me and you were like, you remembered. And I was like, heck yeah. And you were like, but you're in the wrong spot, so get out of here. And I was like, oh, okay, bye, Maverick. Bye. That was fun.
Get out.
But it was probably about 2 weeks into the event, and it was a night that we oversold. And there was
that night
way too many people in the park.
I remember.
And I remember you coming around to me and my partner, Matt.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, mind you, there are many, many Matts that worked with us over the years.
But I think I know which Matt.
Yeah. So Matt and I, who were playing like these characters outside, and you come up to us and you're like, so you're going to probably put in the house. And instantly I had this panic, and I understood that it was for our safety. There was too many people outside. It was getting pretty dangerous. But when you came and got me and you were like, okay, we're going inside, I'm going to put you in a position, I was like, I was like, I need you to point out absolutely everything that we're in this house. Like, I do not want to be scared. Like, I'm already terrified. We go through the house. You're holding my hand and you're like, drop window, air cannon, person behind that door, person about to jump out of that seat. Like, and I was like, oh, and then we went through like this door that went from like the dining room, cut through 3 rooms into the kitchen. I was like, oh, I was like, that's a sneaky door. I was like,
sneaky door.
That's kind of interesting. And as you're pointing out these like air cannons in different spots, I'm like, oh, well, that's because that sensor sets that off. And all of a sudden my brain starts just like clicking at the mechanics of everything.
It's not so scary when you figure out the mechanics.
No. And mind you, now it's like when I see like really scared kids come through, I'm always like, if you want to know a secret and you get really scared, look up. And then, of course, there's like no actual ceiling. So it's like it breaks that.
It breaks the
spell of the scariness. But you put me in a room, in like a bedroom with an Exorcist style like prop.
I don't remember that.
And I was wearing this giant hoop dress.
Oh, wow.
This big hoop dress. And it was gray.
I'm judging my own judgment.
And mind you, customers and guests have to walk literally in front of me, and there's probably like 2 feet between me and the bed.
And the bed.
And the bed. And because like the hoop skirt just extends.
So large.
So I'm trying to like, and I couldn't even go in the corner because at this point we had a chair in one corner, a chair in the other, and they had skeletons and plants there.
Oh, right.
And there was like that drop window behind me that no one used.
Right. I'm really judging my own judgment.
I mean, you should. But mind you, it was much better to be inside versus outside at that point. Yeah. And everyone was really good. It was like a train of people going through, so it's not like anyone could really doing anything.
Yeah, you can't really do much.
But that was my first time in the haunted house that just changed, I would say, probably my entire life.
Right.
Because not only did I get to do this incredible job and experience, and I got to meet my very best friend.
Yes.
My ride or die.
Yes.
Some people that have made my life better, who have challenged me and for many, many different aspects and ways. And it's something that like is really visceral, that if like I see a flashing light or if I hear a specific loop of music from like a nursery,
right,
it will always bring back that one specific
like
memory for
instant.
me. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
So fun.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Dang.
Oh, yeah.
Dang. I mean, I can resonate with all of that because like when you go through your first haunt and you're not really like familiar with them, when the veil gets taken away of like the scariness, I guess, and like when you're just looking at it as like an operational thing, it just kind of goes away.
It does. It was crazy how quickly it dropped for me. And then I wanted to know more about how things were happening and what created, like, what inspired the ideas to create the different rooms, or like I really liked the idea of creating something and where the thought process came from.
Yeah.
So through that, I started studying more like horror movies.
Right.
And I really got into them to the point where it's like a horror movie could be my lullaby.
Yes.
Like I fell asleep to them for years, as you can attest to.
Yes, I can.
I wanted to know the creation behind it because I was like, I want to be in horror movies. I had decided at that point, I was like, I want to be the Sidney Prescott of Scream. I want to be the final girl. I want to kick ass, but I want to have a scary good time while I do it.
Right. Yeah,
Which, fortuitous, I met our wonderful friend Gigi.
Right.
Who is the most amazing, incredible director, fantastic, talented actress. I'm going to plug in Lucha Gore Productions right
we're
now.
going to have them on the show.
We're going to have them.
Like, Gigi has an incredible story about how she ended up with Lucha Gore and how that came to fruition.
Exactly.
And, like, her working in the haunt is part of that.
Absolutely. So, but that's what I'm saying is, like, through that haunted house, I met Gigi.
Yes.
She had her film stuff going, which sparked her own situation of Lucha Gore and expanding her film world. But she's the one who, like, first came to me and was like, hey, I think you'd be great for this, like, person in this horror thing I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, that'd be so fun. And that was my first introduction into acting into it.
Right.
And damn, I die a lot.
Yes, you do. A lot.
I'm like a female Sean Bean.
So,
and I kind of love that.
I mean, that's kind of funny because like after the haunt,
Yeah.
like after my work with the haunt, Gigi was, I think, the first one to be like, you'd be really good to work with set design.
Yeah.
So after that, after working at the haunt, I like started working as a set director.
Yeah.
Or not set director, but set decorator.
Yeah.
And like dabbling art direction, and which ultimately has led me to interior design world.
Yeah.
Which I am now dipping my toe into. So like realistically, the haunt has led us into various directions within our lives. And
But,
it's
like,
purely because of that.
Exactly. It's got the same starting point, just in like similar yet very different paths.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when we were in this company and when we were working for this haunt, you'd been there longer than I had been there. Mm-hmm. So you had been
only by a couple of years.
Yeah.
At that point.
Well, no, but still, it's like you had the seniority of like, I was starting as an actor. You were already my supervisor at that point. Right. And then when you became a higher up supervisor, I was lucky enough to get promoted to a supervisor, which you trained me on. And we came up with some great characters.
Incredible skits.
Oh my God. That's for another episode on a different day.
Yeah.
But I was watching you grow with like designing, and we were given the opportunity to help set up a lot of the decorations around the haunt area. Mm-hmm. And your vision was always really clear, and we always executed it, but you had a very like beautiful, concise thought on what you wanted.
Yeah.
And even if some people were like, oh, I don't know if that's really going to work out, you're like, no, trust me.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. It'll work. I got this. My team got this. So it's like really early on, I saw you going towards like a set and construction design.
Yeah.
And you had always talked about, oh, if I did this, if we did it this way, or if we had these props, or if we had this opportunity, we could do this. Mm-hmm. Whereas like I really enjoyed, as like my supervisor experience came around, was I really enjoyed training all the new people. Like, well, it was like really fun to show people that, you know, scary is good, but that's not all a haunt has to be.
Yes.
The main point is to have a good time.
Right. And when I was watching you train, you were really good at telling people how to dive into the complexity of their characters versus just like that surface level, like, I'm a scary character. Yeah. You were really good at getting them to like kind of dig a little deeper, even if they had never really done that work before. Yeah. Like in terms of like acting, because I know that in acting classes you do have to dive deep into the character.
Absolutely.
And with the haunt, you don't necessarily need acting experience. So to give people this opportunity and to give people this like essentially a gift to dive into not only the character but themselves, because that is a part of it, because on some level we're all a little weird.
We're all a little crazy down here.
We're all a little crazy.
I always thought that it was a big release, sometimes like physically obviously, but like mentally and emotionally at times. And one thing I always found that worked for myself, and something I would, you know, it doesn't always work with everyone, but with people who wanted to try it, it was like, go into yourself, find what checks your box, or what you're scared about, or what freaks you out. See if you can like sit in that and then bring that out. Like, what do you find scary? Probably more often than not, you're going to find other people find that scary too.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm really scared of clowns. I'm much better nowadays.
Yes, you are.
Like, I don't scream and cry into the fetal position necessarily anymore with a clown. Sometimes. Depends on the day. But like, it's because, you know, there's a clown house that we would go to all the time, and I'd have to walk through it constantly. It's like you have to face those fears, and it's really like a settling feeling because you're coming to terms with it on your own.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. Wow, that was a really long banter of our background.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
It was good though.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
We have good conversations.
Yeah. So that was who we are and what our background is.
Yeah.
So some of the people who are listening to this have been around with the Instagram account JustHauntedHouseThings.
Ooh.
Some of them remember, probably, hopefully,
oh God,
the YouTube channel that we sort of had.
Yeah.
And probably our Periscope.
Oh my God, the Periscope.
Way back in the day.
With the wrong titles.
With the wrong titles. Oh my God. Okay. So we're just...
What did we expect?
I don't know. So we're just going to give you a little quick background on like Just Haunted House Things and where, like, how we've gotten to like right now.
Where we were versus moment. Where we are now.
Yeah. So it's good to kind of like look back on that because we do have people who still follow us on Instagram who are part of that journey.
Our day oneers.
So back in the day, I had stopped working for the Haunt for a brief period. I think it was 2015-ish. Yes, that sounds right. I was working for a print shop.
Oh, yeah.
Who shall not be named.
You can't see that, but I just flipped off the air.
Very good gesture. So working in a print shop, you were working for the agency at the time.
Yeah.
And also doing wonderful acting work in the Vancouver film community, which is wonderful. So good. So I had this idea one day, and I can't remember where it came from, but I was just like, I really want to go to all of these haunts, and I want to document it.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Breann one day, being like, hey, do you want to come with me to Universal Horror Nights, like Halloween Horror Nights?
And I was like,
you're like, hell yeah. And so like I had all these other plans. So not only did we go to Halloween Horror Nights, we went to Crypticon.
Yeah.
But I went twice to Crypticon, but I didn't have the YouTube then, and I didn't have
I
just had the Instagram then.
We did the second time that when we both went together to Crypticon.
And we did the Periscope. We did the live panels.
Yep.
But basically the vision at the time was to like try and go to all of the haunts in North America, which ultimately I didn't have the time or the money to do such a thing. Yeah. And I didn't think that like then I didn't know that podcasts were like a thing. And I didn't think that it was like worthy because I didn't feel like I was knowledgeable enough to do something like that. Because like you think of podcasts, you think of like experts or like people who are really really understand their junk, right?
That's how I assumed like podcasts always were too.
Yeah, but like now that podcasts are a little bit more.
Little do we know, it's just a bunch of nerds talking.
It's just a bunch of nerds talking. So like we took a bit of a break from Just Haunted House Things because life happens, right? We both got busy with other things and just, we put it to the side. And then 2020 happened.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. And so we're in 2021 now. And I was sitting at, I think it was at work. Or I was at home. I don't know. I was sitting idly somewhere in the world. As you do.
Scrolling the Instagram.
Yeah. As you do in this world right now, is you kind of sit idly places because you can't really do much.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it would be really cool to get Just Haunted House Things back up and running again.
Yeah. I think you like started it because it was like.
It was something to do.
It
was something to do. So I started up the Instagram a little bit like halfway through 2020 or like early 2020 because I was like, might as well like just have some fun, post some memes to an Instagram page, which has been mainly what it has been for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
One, because I couldn't post anything that had to do with my job at the time prior to 2020. Like I had signed a document that said I couldn't post things to social media that were related to haunts. Yep. So I was and that took over my life. Like that job took over my life.
Yes.
So I couldn't really do anything in regards to like that account or this type of content because I was kind of under contract. So, I mean, I could have handed it over to you at the time. I could have, but I just didn't think of it at the time because...
Also, I wouldn't want to do this without you. This was your baby. And you started it, and I mostly, let's be honest, have been along for the ride, and I've enjoyed the journey. But this was your baby.
That is true. Yeah. Like this was my like little brainchild.
Yeah.
And so I remember messaging you after I've had this like brain thought, and I was like started pumping like more content out.
Yep.
More things onto the Instagram account and trying to like scheme, so to speak. Like we created merch. Like I created merch.
Yep. Cute pins, by the way.
Cute pins. I think they're cute. So then I remember I was like, oh, I can't remember who I was talking to or what I was thinking, but I just remembered like the thought of like a YouTube or podcast or something like I want to create again because I have this opportunity. I have the time.
Yeah.
We have the knowledge.
Yeah. The experience.
We have the experience. So I was like, hey, Breann, do you want to start a podcast with me for Just Haunted House Things?
And I said, fuck no. No, I'm kidding.
That was not.
It was more of a, heck yeah.
Yeah, it was. You were very excited.
I was very honored that you were like, do you want to do, because at first you were like, I'm going to start a podcast. And I was like, heck yeah, you are. I'm like, I'm super excited. I'm going to promote you. And then you were like, hey, do you want to do it with me? And I was like, really? I was very honored and touched. I was like, oh, she's going to bring me in on this. This is so sweet.
Well, the thought process was having one singular person talk about like really nerdy haunt things.
Yeah.
Probably not that entertaining. Having someone else to riff off of and like talk with about not only our experiences, but talk about other people's haunts.
Yeah, especially if it's two gong shows like us.
Yes, exactly. Like, I think we're entertaining. Could be up for debate.
We laugh at our own jokes. It's fine.
Yeah.
No one else needs to laugh at them.
Exactly. So I was like, oh, let's do this podcast. It's taken us a while to get here.
Yeah.
But now we're here.
We're here. We had a lot of stuff come up in the summertime that we're like, oh my God.
Not expecting it.
Nope.
But we're here now. And I'm excited because I think we're going to do some fun things.
I think so.
And like we had done in the past, we will probably end up at haunts.
Yep.
In either in the general area that we're in, which is Vancouver.
God, I hope so.
Or eventually when the borders open up and when we can actually travel again, please get vaccinated.
Please.
Please wear your mask. We'll go to other haunts.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, otherwise we won't have much content.
No.
So I'm excited because not only will this be about haunts, but it'll be about the places around the haunts, I think. And I think we can really dive into like the who, the what, the where, the why, and maybe talk to other people that work at haunts if they want to come on and talk to us.
Totally.
Like, I want to hear people's stories. I want to hear like the good days of their haunts. I want to hear the bad days of their haunts. I want to know the nitty gritty about their haunts. Obviously, we won't say the haunt unless they actually give us permission.
Yeah, unless like you don't care.
Yeah. Like, I just want to know if other people have similar experiences to us.
Yeah.
Or if it's completely different.
Depending on, like, the company,
or the demographic, like,
area of town, everything, yeah.
All of that. Like, I'm so enthralled in this community that I want to know everything about everybody else's experience.
Because it's so different to have people who are, like, seasonal.
Vastly
or
different.
They do, just like they've only done it for 1 year or 10 years, or maybe they're lifers and this is everything to them.
If they run a professional haunt all the time, all year round, I want to meet that person and I want to talk with them and I want to talk about all the cool things that they do. Like, that is something that I want to do all the time. Like, if I could just like talk to people about haunts, I would do that all the time.
She's not kidding. She would. That's why she wanted to start this podcast.
Like, I can't stop talking. Like, I just get so nerdy about this stuff. And then, like, I also kind of want to dive into the ideas, like, why did they come up with this theme? And, like, what their design thoughts were. Like, it goes down to, like, the really nitty-gritty, like, nerdiness of who I am as a person. And I know for you...
Oh, for me, I love this, like, I love a good story.
Yeah.
So it's, like, I love to know what the story is, where the story came from, why you created this story. Like, I mean, I don't want to go into it too much right now because we can save it for a different episode, but like Elon Roth's old haunted house, the Goratorium, had such an incredible story.
That was awesome.
Before you even got scared, you're learning this story, so you're really getting background in a subtle yet very informative way. And it's driving you through every room that you're walking through.
For sure.
And I just wanted to know, okay, I mean, he's a storyteller, Eli Roth is. Yeah. And so I wanted to know, what was your thought process on creating this particular story?
Yeah.
Or like any other haunted house. Like the haunt that we worked at had an incredible story about the family, and it really drove me to, I think, make such really cool character choices. Like one of my characters I based off of a character from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Like, I took parts of that one character, Drusilla, by the way, because she is so badass. Props to that entire show. But she was so incredible, and she had such a complexity to her that to create a character based around her traits and then add in other stuff from the story that was given to me in the background of that character that I was acting. I love the thought process and the creation and what different things people bring to the same character, because you know, sometimes you're changing characters and other people, like, you'll play character A on night 1 and then on night 2 you're playing character B and someone else is playing what you played the night before, and it's never the same.
It's never the same.
It's never necessarily like bad, and it can always be good, but it's never the same.
Yeah. And like I've over the years I noticed that like when that would happen, like when people would trade characters, they might keep certain little nuances of other people's. They pick up like a certain thing,
like, and what works really
what
well.
worked, and then they'd, you know, maybe discard other parts, which is fine because that's just how other people operate.
Exactly.
But that kind of stuff, like, I want to know.
Or like even taking a trait from one character and having it with you in every single character you do. I always think that's really interesting, because that's that piece of yourself that you're like exposing to everyone.
That's the dig down deep.
Find out what's like what really ticks your box, and it's really cool, because then it becomes what is it? Not a quirk, but a bit of like a recognizable trait. Like a signature or a brand of like scaring that you could do.
This is me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like how Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan were always like the lovers and stuff like that growing up, right? So they became those archetypes.
Right.
And so
America's sweetheart.
Exactly. And so it's like, what is your archetype for your character that you take to each different haunt, to each different new experience you go to?
Yeah. And I think like if we like when we get to all these other haunts, like we'll learn more.
Oh, totally. Which
I think is another cool thing to do, right? And I'm so excited.
I know.
I'm so excited. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, so I guess that's just kind of the beginning of how we kind of got our toe dipped into the water.
Yeah, that's kind of like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Like who we are.
We're like an onion. There are layers.
Breann with the dad jokes once again.
And lots of movie references. Just get used to it.
Of movie references.
But I think that's a great place to end the first show.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys have any suggestions on what you want to hear or talk about, or if you have any recommendations on people you want to hear from, let us know. You can hit us up on our Instagram, DM us.
We also have a couple of submission forms for haunt stories. So if you want us to like talk about your haunt story, you can submit it. We have a link tree in our Instagram bio. You can find us there. And as well, we also have, if you just want to be on the podcast, we have a form for that as well. So check out our link tree on our Instagram. It's in our bio.
And our Instagram is JustHauntedHouseThings. Find us there.
Super simple to find. Our DMs are open. You can come and talk to us. We're more than happy to come and talk to you.
Yeah.
We just want to meet you guys.
Yeah. Hope you guys have a wonderful spooky evening.
Have a great night.
Cheers.
And this has been
Just Haunted House Things.